Take a look at this yarn and this gradient. The yarn is not variegated. Basically, it's the whole bunch of plain colors. Now this ingredient. What about the yarn? Also, the yarn is not variegated and it's not self-striped. It doesn't have multicolor structure. No, it's just regular yarn. So what's the trick here? How do you make those transitions from just plain colors? Let me explain. Hi, my name is Lena and this channel is about knitting and crocheting, and the most important feature of this channel is that we try to understand how and why things happen on your knitting needles. I try to explain the reasons why we do this or that, why we would use this or that technique, instead of just blindly following a pattern. But before I even start, please let me thank this week's supporters on Buy Me a Coffee. Thank you so much for your contributions, and you're the reasons I keep on making more and more free videos explaining techniques, just like this one. So the gradients. If you need the short answer, what do we do here? Well, the short answer is we hold our threads in several strands and substitute one color by another. The step-by-step tutorial will start in this video just in a moment. But before we start the step-by-step tutorial, let me talk about the yarn, because each and every project begins with the right yarn choice. Some yarns are definitely not suitable for this project. And first of all, by that I mean thick yarns. So if the technique implies using several strands and your yarn is already thick, then, well, you should look for some other techniques, because it's just not going to work on thick threads, on thick yarns. Now, the second thing here is the color. Does any color work for this technique? Basically, yes, but it's just a matter of your personal preferences. What I personally prefer is to have colors from shades from the same color range. My personal choice here is yarns for machine knitting. Those are basically super lace threads, very, very fine, and you just hold several strands together in order to achieve that thickness which is comfortable for you to work with. What's the material? Well, again, it's a matter of your personal preferences. My personal preferences are pure cotton because it's my favorite material. I do not like to pay too much for yarns. I don't like expensive yarns. I don't have many of those in my collections because pure cotton, it's an affordable material and it's very, very high quality if we work with those machine threads. And the thinner the yarn is, the better quality it has. Well, it's just the logic of machine knitting cottons. It's just what I've noticed from my experience. So anyway, should you choose only pure cotton? Of course not. Fluffy yarns might give you even better effect. So you might take a look at those too. Probably some fluffiness will bring your work to the whole new level with even smoother transitions, which look more interesting, more intriguing. Now, what's the logic of this gradient? Okay, the main idea of this gradient is to always have three main threads and one secondary. So let me explain the logic. I will go from bottom to top. Since this dress was made from bottom to top, this is how I start. I have number one color, so I have 1, 2, 3 threads of this color. And then I go for maybe 10 or 20 or 30 rows this way, okay? 3 threads of the main color. And then I have the second color, number 2 color. So I go 1, 1, 2, which means one of the threads after 10 rows, like let's say 10 rows. 10 rows we knit this way. And then we substitute one of the threads by the second color. And let's get our 10 rows this way. And then I go 1, 2, and 2. So we're substituting step by step. Let's make 10 more rows. And then 2, 2, 2. And then 2, 2, 3. That's very simple logic. 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. If you have 4 colors, you go 3, 3, 4, 3, 4, 4, 3, 4, oh, 4, 4, 4. And through all your work, you have to have one of the colors. I mean, you don't have to, but it's just the idea. One of the colors that is a little bit thinner. Yeah, each segment was 10 rows. It's totally optional. You can go for 20 rows, you can go for 15 rows, for 5 rows. It depends on how much yarn you have, what's the idea. But my idea here, since I've got yellow silk and yellow cotton, I decided to use that tiny silk thread through the entire dress. So basically, everywhere on each and every step, I actually had 4 threads. Okay, so let's call this 4A, okay, because it's like number 4, but it's also yellow, but it's a different material. So 4A is used through the entire gradient. What does it do? Well, to me, it kind of glues the logic together. So this yellow teeny tiny spots start here, and then as the logic goes on and on from green to yellow, this silk thread just kind of holds the entire thing together. So basically that's the idea. What can you use it for? Is it only for dresses? Of course not. You can use it for a scarf, for a cardigan, for a skirt, whatever. It's not necessarily about the kids stuff. You can choose your colors. You can choose how wide should be these segments. Is just totally up to you. And the most important thing here is to understand the logic. So you always keep that 4 threads logic. You've got 4 threads, and each segment starts with one thread substituted with another thread. That's basically it. Now, the second gradient. If we compare it with the first one, we see how much smoother it is. Here you can see those segments, but here it's so much smoother. So what's the idea here? So what's the trick here? Well, the trick is to have more threads. Both gradients were made on the same knitting needles. So this one was 2.5 millimeter knitting needles, and here the main threads, remember 3 main threads, 1 additional. So my main threads were 1,500 meters per 100 grams. These ones. And the additional one that goes through the entire project was 3,000 meters per 100 grams. Very tiny, very like a human hair. However, it does its job. See, it kind of fixes the composition together. So 2.5 millimeter knitting needles. Now let's take a look at this second gradient. What's the trick here? Here I used the same knitting needles, 2.5 millimeter knitting needles, except for each and every section here consists of 7 threads. And these threads are so much thinner than these guys for the kids dress. So if the kids one was 1,500 meters per 100 grams, then here I used 2 2,400 meters per 100 grams. This one, see, it's much thinner. You have the same 100 grams, the same cotton, the same material, but you can fit 2,400 grams, which is almost two times, well, not two times, but almost uh, thinner the yarn is than this one, because you need to spread this yarn two times more to have this figure bigger than this one. So how come I have 7 threads for this gradient and just skip everything on 2.5 millimeter knitting needles? Because the threads are thinner, much thinner. So what's the idea here? Well, first of all, let me explain the main logic. So I have 7 threads always, and it goes like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The first color, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 substituted, substituted. And the logic goes on and on and on and on. No matter how many colors you have, you just substitute one color with a different one. And so on and so on. So the logic is just to always keep that 7 threads, but in a different shade. And now take a look at the result. What happens here? How much smoother this transition is. You almost cannot tell where one or another thing starts. Why is that? Well, because you just it's like being an artist and mixing those shades. It's just the same, but in terms of threads. Another thing you might have noticed here, I did not keep that number of rows even. So one of the reasons is that my 5-year-old assistant helped me with those balls, so she wasn't patient and she would just randomly make those balls. Some are bigger, some are smaller. So this is just a random thing. They all were of different sizes, those balls, those small yarn balls. And whenever I was bored by a color combination, I would just involve some other yarn. And this, I just didn't count the rows. I didn't have that 10 rows segments. No, it's just whenever I'm bored or ran out of the yarn, I would just start a new one. And also, if you try this pattern, this scheme, you will see that sometimes you can break that rhythm. If you have like leftovers of certain colors, you can, for example, I don't know, maybe substitute these two by a previous color. So just, you know, it's like working as an artist. You just use this or that shade. If you see that the border is too vivid, then you might take a step back and repeat this segment or even this segment at this stage. So this is how it works here. I did not, so I just followed this logic, but I didn't keep those segments even. This is how, well, actually, you see how these guys look here. I might have some bubbles, one color bubbles. I mean, those plain colors really look really good on the gradients, don't you think? I hope that it makes sense. The beauty of this method is that you don't have to depend on someone's vision. You don't have to rely on the manufacturer. You just create your own color combinations, your own transitions. You choose your own shades and colors. And that's the beauty of this method. Please let me know if you have any other questions besides those that have been